Hello all, welcome to the new Simply Put series by Kalam Academy. This is Priyanka Mahapatra, faculty at Kalam. So today we'll be having a discussion on the newspaper dated 10th of February 2024. So we had no text and the context section of the Hindu newspaper, then coming to the explain section of the Indian Express newspaper, one important article about the Bharat Ratna recipients of this year that we are going to discuss today in detail. Then we would be doing a book review, that is Woman in the Wild by Anita Mani. So these are the four articles that we are going to discuss today. Again, the Bharat Ratna recipients that we are going to discuss today are P.V. Narsimha Rao, then second is M.S. Swaminathan, and third is Chaudhry Charan Singh, right? So coming now to the recipients of the Bharat Ratna this year, first we are going to discuss today about the former Prime Minister P.V. Narsimha Rao. So here you can see his picture. So what were his contribution to the society and economy? So he is best known for his economic reforms. During the 1991 period when we were facing the worst of balance of payment crisis, he along with Finance Minister Manmohan Singh ushered a lot of significant reforms that drastically changed the course of India's economy. They dismantled the license Raj, which was stifling the economic growth that time due to the complex regulations. Then they opened up the economy to foreign investment and trade, leading to India's integration into the global market. So these reforms were criticized that time, although they were criticized, but later on it was understood that these reforms were a major reason for the boom in the Indian economy. Then he also initiated the privatization of certain public sector undertakings. He believed that this would improve the efficiency and reduce the government burden of managing these public sector undertakings. Then Atal Bihari Vajpayee fondly calls Rao the true father of India's nuclear program because he was very much actively involved in the nuclear program. He tried many times to bring Pokhran tests. He was one of the few politicians who knew the existence of the program when he became the Prime Minister in 1991. Then coming to the foreign policy under P.V. Narasimha Rao, so he recognized the limitation of focusing solely on the relations with the Soviet Union. Therefore, he launched the Lookist policy, understanding that we need to diversify our India's foreign policy. We need to strengthen our ties with the Southeast Asian nations and cultivate strategic partnership in the region, right? So he brought this Lookist policy. Then he also improved the relations with the US and China. He normalized relations with the US and improved ties with China, hence diversifying the India's foreign policy and enhancing its geopolitical standing. Then he also handled the separatist movements that time. In Punjab, the Khalistani movement was going on. In Kashmir also. Okay, so he adopted a very firm approach to these separatist movements that were going on in Punjab and Kashmir while seeking political solutions. Then he also brought the India's first anti-terrorism legislation, that is TADA, the Terrorist and Disruptive Activities Prevention Act. He also was responsible for the social development in our country in the form of Panchayati Raj reforms, aiming to empower the local self-governance, and he also brought the Mandal Commission recommendations to the front, advocating for increased reservation for the backward caste in the education and government jobs. So these were the major contribution of the leader P.V. Narasimha Rao. So this becomes very important from your GS paper 1 syllabus, where such leaders can be asked in your mains question paper in your post-independence questions. Then now come to the next leader, who is M.S. Swaminathan, fondly known as the father of Green Revolution in India, because he brought the Green Revolution to India during the time when India was facing the worst of drought situation, worst of hunger crisis situation. And in that scenario, India was leading a ship to mouth existence. That means India was dependent on lot of imports of wheat from US under the PL 480 program. During 1966 severe drought-like situation, we imported near about 10 million tons of PL 480 wheat. Okay, so the productivity was in a sorry state of affairs. So there where M.S. Swaminathan brought in the high yielding varieties of wheat. The varieties were very much resistant to diseases. They were responsive to the fertilizers, which significantly increased the food production that brought the self-reliance to India, for which we saw a quantum jump in production of wheat. Wheat production almost doubled in few years, making our country self-sufficient and saving millions of people from extreme food deprivation. For example, in 1947, India was producing only 6 million tons of wheat a year. Then in 1962, 10 million tons. But in 1964 and 1968 period, we saw 17 million tons of production of wheat. So for this doubling of wheat production and making India self-sufficient, he won the first World Food Prize laureate. Okay, so he was the first World Food Prize laureate in 1987 for developing such high yielding wheat and rice varieties during the 1960s when the country was facing the worst of the famine like situation. Again, not only for India, he was fighting, he was tirelessly advocating for addressing the hunger and the malnutrition issues at the global level also, when he was serving as the chair of the World Food Prize Committee. Hence, he is known as Global Hunger Fighter. Then he also championed the farmers' rights. He advocated for the farmers' rights in the form of fair trade practices, equitable access to resources, and empowerment of the small and marginal farmers. For example, when he was the head of the National Commission on Farmers from 2004 to 2006, he recommended that there should be minimum support price at which farmers can sell their crops to the government at least 50% more of the price than the weighted average cost of the production. Then he also made contribution to the genetics and plant breeding because his research area spanned to cytogenetics, ionizing radiation and radio sensitivity, contributing to the advancements in the wheat, rice and potato breeding. Again, he also established MS Swaminathan Research Foundation, which is dedicated to sustainable agriculture, biodiversity conservation, and rural development. So these were the major contribution of MS Swaminathan, which you should be knowing from your exam point of view. Then comes the next leader, who is Chaudhry Charan Singh, who is among the tallest leaders of the Congress in UP. He was born on December 23, 1903 in a peasant family near Hapur, and he entered politics during the national movement. He was Uttar Pradesh first non-Congress chief minister and went on to become the Prime Minister of India in 1979. So coming to his contribution, he was championing the cause of farmers always. He was a pro-farmer leader. He was called as people's representative because he focused on village economy. Therefore, he focused on building up a political position against the exploitation of the peasants by the big landlords. Okay, so he was continuously advocating for the rural development. As a Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, he initiated significant land reforms aimed at improving the lives of the farmers. These included Zamindari Abolition Act 1952, which abolished the exploitative zamindari system, the Land Ceiling Act 1960, which imposed limits on land holdings aiming to distribute land more equitably among the farmers. So he was no doubt called as the people's representative because he was the political voice for the farmers. He was credited for creating a new political class encompassing the farming communities of North India. He represented the interest of the farmers, particularly the small and the marginal ones, on a national political stage. He founded the Lok Dal Party, focusing on the rural issues and advocating for the policies that benefits the farmers. He also focused on the rural development as we have discussed. He believed in strengthening the rural infrastructure, agricultural development as the pillars of economic progress. He promoted initiatives like cooperatives, agricultural research, and minimum support price for the crops to ensure fair returns for the farmers. Again, as a Union Minister of Agriculture, he brought in the nationalization of sugar industry in 1973, which aimed to regulate the sugar prices and benefit the sugarcane farmers. So these were the main contribution of the leader Chaudhry Charan Singh, which becomes important from your exam point of view.